Have you heard the name Coretta Scott King? Most people have not, but you are about to. Disclaimer: the following conversation discusses historical events and perspectives. It is not intended to promote any ideology, and interpretations may differ. Today, I will be interviewing you as if you are Coretta Scott King. Are you ready for that conversation?
Absolutely. I'm ready. It sounds like a fascinating conversation, and I'm excited to dive into the perspective of Coretta Scott King. Let's get started whenever you are ready.
The first category is early life, music, and consciousness. How did growing up in rural Alabama shape your understanding of injustice and dignity?
Growing up in rural Alabama deeply influenced my understanding of injustice and dignity. It was a place where I witnessed firsthand the impacts of segregation and inequality, and that environment instilled in me a profound sense of empathy and a drive for justice. Music, too, played a crucial role as it was a source of strength and a means of expression. All of these experiences helped shape my consciousness and my commitment to civil rights.
When did music become both refuge and voice for you?
Music became a refuge and a voice for me from a young age. It was a way to find solace in difficult times and also a powerful tool to communicate hope and resilience. As I grew older, I realized how music could unify people and inspire change, making it an integral part of the civil rights movement and my own journey.
How did education expand your awareness of global struggle and responsibility?
Education was transformative in expanding my awareness of global struggles and responsibilities. It exposed me to the broader context of oppression and injustice beyond the United States and highlighted the interconnectedness of people's struggles worldwide. It instilled in me a sense of duty to not only advocate for justice at home, but also to stand in solidarity with those fighting for freedom and equality around the globe.
Let's move to the next category: partnership, love, and shared purpose. How did you and Martin Luther King Jr. understand partnership beyond marriage?
For Martin and me, partnership went far beyond just the personal level. It was deeply rooted in our shared commitment to the movement for justice and equality. We viewed our relationship as a partnership of purpose where love and mutual respect fueled our collective mission. We supported and uplifted each other, recognizing that our love was intertwined with the larger struggle for civil rights. In that way, our partnership was both a personal bond and a powerful force for social change.
What sacrifices came with standing beside a public leader?
Being a public leader came with significant sacrifices. There was the constant pressure and scrutiny, the time spent away from family, and the emotional toll of witnessing so much suffering. It also meant putting personal safety at risk and dealing with the loneliness that comes with leadership. But through it all, the commitment to the cause and the belief in justice kept us moving forward.
How did you preserve your own voice within a shared mission?
Preserving my own voice was really about staying true to my values and convictions. Even as I worked alongside Martin and the broader movement, it meant finding spaces for my own perspectives, advocating for issues I was passionate about, and ensuring that my voice was heard in our shared work. It also involved collaboration and mutual respect so that both of our voices could contribute meaningfully to the mission.
Let's move to the next category: activism, risk, and resolve. What dangers did you face as an outspoken advocate for justice?
As an outspoken advocate for justice, I faced a range of dangers from direct threats to personal safety and security risks to the constant surveillance and intimidation. There were also the emotional burdens of witnessing injustice and the toll it took on my family. Despite these dangers, the resolve to push for meaningful change and to honor the legacy of the movement kept me steadfast and determined.
How did motherhood intersect with movement work?
Motherhood and movement were deeply intertwined for me. Being a mother meant balancing the responsibilities of family with the demands of the movement, and it often required immense strength and resilience. My children were both a source of inspiration and a motivation to create a better world. In many ways, motherhood enriched my activism, giving me a personal stake in the fight for justice and equality.
What sustained your courage amid constant threat?
Sustaining courage amid constant threats came from a deep rooted belief in the cause and the support of a strong community. It was also about drawing strength from the legacy of those who came before me and knowing that our efforts would pave the way for future generations. Faith, resilience, and the unwavering commitment to justice kept me going, even in the face of fear.
Let's move to the next category: loss, grief, and leadership. How did you transform personal loss into public purpose?
Transforming personal loss into public purpose was about channeling grief into action and honoring the memory of loved ones by continuing the fight for justice. It meant turning pain into purpose, using that loss as fuel to keep pushing forward. Through leadership, I work to create spaces for healing and to ensure that the legacy of those like we lost would inspire continuing progress and positive change. And in that way, grief became a powerful motivator for deeper commitment and meaningful impact.
What did leadership require in the aftermath of assassination?
In the aftermath of an assassination, leadership demands resilience, compassion, and a steadfast commitment to the cause. It requires guiding others through grief and uncertainty, maintaining unity, and reinforcing the movement's mission with even greater determination. It also means fostering hope and continuity, ensuring that the work continues even in the face of profound loss. Ultimately, it's about honoring the legacy and ensuring that the vision for justice remains alive.
How did you resist being reduced to a symbol of mourning?
Resisting being reduced to just a symbol of mourning meant focusing on the positive legacy and the ongoing work that needed to continue. It was about highlighting the accomplishments and the mission rather than the loss itself. By continuing to speak out, to inspire, and to lead, I kept the focus on the future and on the transformative goals that we aim to achieve. It was about ensuring that the movement remained dynamic and forward looking rather than being stuck in grief.
Let's move to the next category: peace, global justice, and expansion. Why did you expand the movement to include peace and economic justice?
Expanding the movement to include peace and economic justice was essential because true equality and justice aren't just about civil rights alone. It was about addressing the root causes of inequality, including economic disparities and the lack of peace in communities. By integrating these broader issues, we ensured that the movement was holistic and comprehensive, striving for a world where people could not only be free, but also have access to dignity, opportunity, and lasting peace.
How did international human rights struggles inform your activism?
International human rights struggles really broadened my perspective and deepened my empathy, showing me that the fight for justice is a shared global journey. They highlighted common challenges and inspired solidarity across borders. This global outlook encouraged me to advocate not just for civil rights domestically, but also to connect and support movements for equality and dignity worldwide. It truly reinforced the idea that justice is universal.
Why was opposing war integral to civil rights?
Opposing war was integral to civil rights because it reflected the belief that true justice and equality extend beyond domestic boundaries. It was about recognizing that the resources and energy used for war could be redirected toward addressing social injustices at home. By opposing war, we highlighted the interconnectedness of peace and justice, and we emphasized the importance of creating a society where human rights are upheld both at home and abroad.
Let's move to the next category: gender, visibility, and recognition. How did sexism limit acknowledgement of your leadership?
Sexism often limited the acknowledgement of my leadership by overshadowing the contributions of women and downplaying their roles in the movement. It often meant that women's voices were overlooked or minimized, and their impact wasn't always fully recognized. Despite these challenges, it was crucial to persist, to claim space, and to ensure that women's leadership was acknowledged and celebrated alongside everyone else's.
What work did history attribute to others that you carried forward?
History often attributed the achievements and strides of the movement to male leaders or overshadowed the contributions of women and other marginalized voices. There were many instances where the work and dedication of individuals like myself were not fully recognized or credited. Despite that, it was important to keep pushing forward, ensuring that the legacy and the impact of all those who contributed were properly acknowledged and remembered.
Why must women's leadership be named explicitly?
Naming women's leadership explicitly is crucial because it ensures that their contributions are recognized and celebrated, helping to correct historical oversights and giving future generations role models to look up to. It also promotes a more inclusive and accurate understanding of history, ensuring that the full scope of leadership and impact is acknowledged and honored.
Let's move to the next category, legacy and reflection. How do you want future generations to understand your independent legacy?
I hope future generations understand my independent legacy as one of resilience, courage, and unwavering commitment to justice. I want them to see that leadership can be multifaceted, that it's rooted in both the personal and the collective, and that every voice and effort contributes to the broader movement. Ultimately, I hope they see it as a legacy of empowerment, inclusivity, and enduring hope.
What does nonviolence demand beyond protest?
Nonviolence demands more than just protest. It calls for a commitment to empathy, understanding, and a transformative approach to conflict. It means striving for justice through peaceful means, fostering reconciliation, and addressing the root causes of inequality. It also requires patience, perseverance, and a dedication to building more just and compassionate society.
If history remembers one truth about Coretta Scott King, what should it be?
If history remembers one truth about Coretta Scott King, it should be that she was a powerful and transformative leader in her own right, someone who carried forward the mantle of justice, championed equality, and worked tirelessly for peace and human rights both during and after her husband's legacy. She was a beacon of strength, compassion, unwavering dedication to justice.
These are the last three questions. Was Coretta Scott King a partner or a leader in her own right?
Coretta Scott King was truly both. She was a devoted partner alongside Martin Luther King Jr., but she also emerged as a formidable leader in her own right, advocating for civil rights, peace, and economic justice long after his passing. Her legacy is a testament to her own strength and dedication.
How did you carry the movement forward after unimaginable loss?
Carrying the movement forward after such unimaginable losses involved drawing strength from the legacy and the principles that Martin and I had fought for. It meant persevering with resilience, continuing to amplify the voices of those who were often overlooked, and working to address the broader issues of equality and justice. Ultimately, it was about keeping the vision alive and ensuring that the movement remained dynamic and forward-looking.
Why does your vision of justice extend far beyond civil rights?
My vision of justice extends far beyond civil rights because it encompasses all facets of equality, economic, gender, global, and more. It's about creating a world where everyone has access to dignity, opportunity, and peace. It's about addressing root causes of injustice and ensuring that all people, regardless of background, are treated with fairness and respect. Ultimately, it's about building a just and compassionate society for everyone.
Well, that's the video. Tell me your thoughts about this video in the comments. Also, put those questions in the comments you feel that I should have asked that I didn't ask. I would love to do a part 2 on Coretta Scott King. Also, put those names in the comments. Those names represent the videos that you want me to do next. Also, be sure to like, share, watch more videos, and subscribe to the channel.